Hi, this is Jay Billis of ESPN, and you're listening to the ML Sports Platter.
It's the ML Sports Platter, brought to you by our good friend Brian Comboy at Mass Mutual New York State. Tax-efficient retirement planning today with Brian. Make sure you log on to advisors.massmutual.com. That's advisors.massmutual.com. We're also brought to you by the Allen Angus Pub, Sit Means Sit Syracuse, and our great friends at CNY Electrical. If you're in and around Central New York, great state of New York, you need the electrical work done, residential or commercial. CNY Electrical is tremendous, man. Sean and his staff get it done. They go on site quickly. They'll evaluate it A to Z before they start their work. And it's just a terrific group. CNYelectrical.com. Tip of the cap thanks as well to the Swan and Whitaker families for their support of the platform, as well as the Vince Aguirre Consulting Group. Let's bring in the next guest of the ML Sports Platter. I've known this guy for 20 or so years. We used to work together in Central New York on radio. You knew him for years as Captain John on Y94, one of the most distinguished voices, one of the most iconic voices in Central New York. He's still at it, man. He's still in the business doing great things for WAER, local morning host, NPR's Morning Edition, anchor and a reporter, you name it, and he's doing some mentoring and some guiding along for those youngsters who are the next stars in our industry, and we'll get into that deep dive as well with Captain John Smith. John, this is terrific to have you. So glad we were able to reconnect, my man. How are you?
You're very welcome, Mike. I didn't know that I would be, worthy enough of a guest to be on your podcast.
Beyond worthy enough. I want to start just kind of for my listeners, I remember right when I started early in radio, you were, one of the best DJs then and still now. I consider you as pretty much like a radio icon in this town for just what you've accomplished, your voice, how you maintained it, how you carried yourself, how you helped other people. You had a way about you on the air. You still do. When did you fall in love with the business? And then can you kind of get into with my listeners your career up until now, with your WAER work, and we'll get into the mentoring of students and all that. But can you kind of hit on those two things when you first fell in love with the business, knew you wanted to go into it really, and then, kind of where you've been up until now?
Well, Mike, the first inkling that I had that I liked recording my voice was about the time I turned 5 and a half. My father gave me a cassette recorder, and I began telling stories, recording my voice back. And, then, just out of that, always had a love of music. We've always been musically inclined. My father was, big time into, not only listening to music, but even taught me how to drum. He was a drummer. And then, from I would say, I don't know if it was probably my early teen years when I was listening to the radio a lot, and then I decided that, it would be cool to be on the radio someday, and, maybe we should DJ. And then it was junior high school. I was in 8th grade, and I can remember my English teacher, Mrs. Gleese. She had an annual manners banquet, and she said, we need some entertainment for this year. Would anybody, have a talent or anything or any proposal? And so I went up after class and I said to her, hey, I've got a lot of, records, and, I'm into DJing. I've just never, done it out in public before. Let me go home and ask my dad if he'd, help me out, bringing equipment and whatnot. And so we did that, and it turned out it was a hit. We didn't have the professional DJ grade turntables where you could just, quarter turn back, have a direct drive response, hit the button and be right there. We just had to kind of wing it on the spot. And, from there, started to mobile DJ with my father. And, as I got closer to the hiring age, won a contest to be on the radio, actually.
So as the years have gone by and you've been in it for so long, the industry is obviously, when you and I met, I mean, it feels like 100 years ago in a way, because I mean, it's changed so much with how you have to be like, even more versatile, and the social media aspect of it, and the shrinking of media stations, and it's just, there's so many things that have changed. How have you changed while the industry has changed?
Well, I was, as I would say, forced into change as a result of a lot of things that I don't entirely quite understand, probably to this day, because as you were gracious enough to acknowledge how long you've been on the air, I always had a history of high ratings, and was even told I was researching very well when I was at the last station, the music format, and an afternoon drive at automation, as that became a preeminent force of any broadcast station day, especially in automated hours, which allowed the shrinking of staffs and the dwindling budget for live people, for the stations who favored live people. Well, that continues mainly in mornings, if you're going to see anything in markets, and thankfully I remain on in the morning, a day part that is highly listened to, as well as afternoon drives, another day part. But my switch from news and information, from where I was in an entertainment mode, and sharing sometimes news and information and celebrity interviews, music artists, all of that turned out, Mike, to be transferable to what I'm doing now. And I always wanted to do news, but when I got out of college, I couldn't seem to break into it because I was already a DJ, and that seemed to be where the jobs were for me at the time. So I guess my mindset has changed in that I still love music, and would I like to host a music show again and do interviews with people, or just entertain an audience? Yes, I would love to do that, but I guess my enthusiasm has now shifted to more of I'm still informing the public. I'm getting to meet really cool people I would otherwise not get to meet. Both very well-known people, or people of our community that have a story to tell, that is intriguing, and I get to share that with others. And on top of it, I'm at Syracuse University in a learning environment, working with students from the Newhouse School who have this curiosity and enthusiasm of broadcasting that I can relate back to. And it wasn't that long ago. You and I both can relate to that. And now incorporating that element to what I do, it just takes me back and brings me back to the days where I had that enthusiasm and intrigue. So in a way, I feel like I'm just kind of paying it forward now and getting, budding talent on their way.
So what do you think an 18-year-old John Smith would do today to break into the business? Would you go with more modern media in terms of, well, hey, it's all right here in my lap. I got YouTube, I got Facebook, I got Twitter. I can just launch a podcast for free. I can just start doing it and start doing reps. Hell, I could do it in high school if I wanted to. There's middle schoolers out there starting podcasts right now. Would you do it more that way, or do you think you'd still kind of go traditional media wise and try to blend the two?
Well, I think, yes, I think I would definitely include the traditional media. That's just something that comes along with my heritage and my belief in whether it's radio or TV. I love both. whether you're watching over the air signals from the broadcast tower or listening to it that way on the radio. I know there's other ways to listen to me in the morning through your smart speaker or mobile app or streaming the station online at WAER.org, if I could drop it in there. But beyond that, I'm more of a traditional kind of like heritage guy when it comes to broadcasting, because that's what I grew up with, and that's what's inherent, right? So now, in fact, I was just talking to a new student, grad student today, saying that, hey, I remember when we didn't have cell phones, and he chuckled. So, and I said, yeah, I make myself sound like I'm old,
Yeah.
But
That's
it
when the chants came in. You're a geezer, right?
Right.
You're so old. Yeah.
So, but it's just what you have grown up with.
Yeah.
As new technology is introduced.
Sure.
I mean, you and I are learning this new technology. So, in reference to your question of, would I use social media channels or podcasting? Look, those are things that, I use, Twitter, and I'm active with that. Maybe not as much as other people daily, but, it's become part of what I look at every day. And it really is amazing as to what is accessible information wise. But I really marvel at the younger people, because they've grown up with it and they do things with it that I don't even think about, and so, I always promise myself that I'm going to, learn, more ways to maybe get involved in that realm and developing new things. And also, I'm always hopeful too that, somehow, radio is incorporated in it as well. That not that radio is ever going to go away. Because as long as we have cars and long drives, radio isn't going away. That's how I feel.
What are we looking at 10 years from now? Media. What's it look like to you?
Well, for me, I guess it's all about, your daily routine. Now, I'm hearing, some people, especially the younger generation, watch their favorite TV shows at any time, where I'm still like part of the broadcast clock. I don't, have a recorder I set for TV shows. I don't do that. I'm actually still leaning towards what I've always done, and that is watching programming as it's broadcast. Not that I don't, go back and see a TV interview or even a radio interview, listen to it online. I do. So I don't think anybody's really come up with a great way to incorporate it, especially as the internet has expanded, right? So it's just, there's so many options. Okay, am I going to use an app? Am I going to go to a website? Am I going to watch TV or am I going to listen to the radio over the broadcast signal? There's just so many choices now. I would love to see something like where media, a device of some sort, and maybe it's to our smartphones, incorporated things more easily. I think the easiest, would be that I would really like to see happen, Mike, and I understand that, it's, the communication companies, for cell phones and whatnot, have the ability to just flick a switch, so to speak, and make our phones broadcast receivers for radio. I don't know if it has that capability for TV just yet, but for radio, even though you can listen through mobile apps, I would like to be listening to radio in like true broadcast quality sound. Especially sound matters to me. For years I've been favoring listening to CDs. It's only in the last couple of years that I finally said, hey, I'm going to use a mobile app to listen to music, which it's great, but not enough of the library is consistently, delivered in the high grade that it was recorded in. of, that artists spend thousands or millions producing albums, right, over the years. And, to some people who listen to music, not at the degree that I am used to listening to, again, the younger generation, they might not realize just how awesome a CD sounds at a much, higher bandwidth, like a wave file or what have you. But I got to say, some of the newer releases I'm hearing right now just blow me away. When I'm listening to them in the car from my phone, I'm like, this is coming from my phone?
I know, it's
This is
insane.
incredible.
I know.
Right?
I know. It really is. I mean, you listen to a podcast and it's, like if you listen to the high-end podcasts, the best technology, the biggest platforms, like your bar stools and the ones that simulcast TV, with me being such a big sports guy, like Dan Patrick, Rich Eisen, Tony Kornheiser, I listen to all those guys, a couple of bar stool podcasts as well, and it's just like, I mean, it's studio quality, man, and then some. I mean, it's wild, right through your phone, right through an app.
It's exactly it. Studio quality. That's what I'm looking for. And I'm hearing that a lot of companies like Apple are, wanting to move towards that, because I think the pandemic caused them to realize, especially when they're hearing that vinyl is being pressed now, that people do pay attention to the sound and the source of the audio quality they're getting.
Yeah, no doubt about it. John Smith, our guest here, a longtime broadcaster, Central New York, anchor reporter, local co-host of Morning Edition. Get him on Twitter at JSmithWAER, and of course WAER.org. When you deliver on air, when you're anchoring, when you're reporting, today's world is so, hey, I got to get it quick, I got to deliver it quick, I got to be first, I got to this, I got to that, and then there's a lot of competition to it. People are always kind of looking over their shoulders still in media a lot. When you deliver, what are you trying to emphasize? What's important to you when you deliver it to the audience, John?
Well, Mike, I look at every story as different. Like I never know when I'm going to be assigned a story, just in any given day off the cuff that I'm not expecting. Case in point, today was one of them. And, members of Harriet Tubman's family came from Auburn, and they're getting behind an idea. Let's say if there was a replacement to the I-81 viaduct through Syracuse, and maybe a bridge and a community grid, or just a bridge to allow the free flow of traffic as we know it now. I get to meet people. I get to hear their opinions on things. And so I take a story knowing that a lot of people are in favor of the community grid option, right? In Syracuse, to kind of rid the social injustices of the past, the neighborhoods that were taken away when, through eminent domain when I-81 was built through Syracuse. So I try to represent, what opinions, people have. And, it's not for me to judge, but it's to get those opinions out there, if it's an opinion-based piece, or if it's just a story of news of the community that people, need to know about. Also interviewed a group that, came, some members from Rochester and Saratoga yesterday to rally their state legislators as the new incoming governor, Kathy Hochul, just took office, to get health care, like a single-payer health care system. So, I'm sharing their own experiences, why they think a single-payer system, would work. And then I, hear sometimes stories from people of, their own tragic experiences. And, I make a call as to, what I want to include in the story. And, yesterday, when I included them in a story, I was like, wow, they're just, people that should be heard. So I just I guess I'm kind of like the messenger, Mike, as I see it. Journalist that gets the stories out there, and hopefully lets people know what's going on, or what they should be paying attention to, as whether it's healthcare or deciding which traffic plan for I-81 is going to be the best foot forward. And right now, I got to say, to that end, seems to be that there's a lot of opinions out there, and that might be one of the biggest decisions that is going to come down, and how that affects families, businesses, and the surrounding suburbs is going to be key to how we move forward, but not only now, but for generations to come. So that's exciting, for me to be a part of the discussion, to deliver the news.
When did you feel like you had arrived as a professional? That, hey, people know me. I'm pretty good. The station's doing well. I'm doing well. The ratings are well. Like, I'm feeling it. I've arrived. I'm here. I feel like I've done it. I've gotten over the hurdle. Did you have a moment?
Well, I would say, Mike, that through the years, if I look at the music stations where I was a DJ / on-air personality, which it moved more towards on-air personality, and of course, as you know, I used to be a music director of a 100,000 watt radio station here in town, and I guess when not only I would see ratings, but also see station ratings on a whole that indicated that well, obviously I'm doing something here that is good. Case in point, the first time, the first Christmas after September 11th, I was tasked at hand with delivering the first 24-hour all Christmas format, and I said, oh my gosh, well, how are we going to make this sound like variety? Because people might get bored out of this, was my first thought. But years ago, as a teenager, I suggested it, and some of the broadcast executives just laughed at me. And years later, I was asked to do just that. So I programmed it, and it worked well. And I had a certain recipe for that, obviously, that I kept in mind. And as far as, I guess, recognizability for me was when, I got out in the community more at whatever respective station, and people would show up, and, you talk, or people would call in. But I would say I really realize it, more now, as far as my interaction with the community in my current role, on the air in the morning drive time, during morning edition on an NPR member station, and also getting out in the community and bringing, the future reporters out. And also, in the morning too, I have the future sportscasters out with me. And I think the interactions with the students who are learning broadcast journalism and sportscasting through the years has made me really realize that, I hear from people in the community when I produce a certain story, but also I hear from the students over and over, especially through the years, of how much they've learned from me. When you have a young person tell you that you've positively impacted them, and the trajectory of their career, and maybe the success as they went along in school, where they might not have had, a lot of confidence, because it's all about confidence building, right? As we're going through and learning the ropes and what we want to do. So that confirmation, I guess, for me, has been most meaningful out of all the stations I've been at Syracuse University and at WAER.
I got two more for you, John. Did you have anybody you looked up to when you were young, getting into it, who you listened to a lot?
Well, locally, I used to listen to, Big Mike, Big Mike Fiss, and I won the DJ contest I referenced earlier, and I became his junior DJ. And, that was in September. And then after my birthday, the following summer, I got hired by the station because I had turned 16. So, Mike was great, and the cast around him, Dick DeLine, who did the news then, Dennis Brogan, who better known to Central New Yorkers as the Dome Ranger. They were really great. They welcomed me, and they kidded me, but at the same time, they were like, "Oh my gosh, you could do better things with your life here. You need it, as Mike would tell me, you need a hobby for yourself." And I say, "Well, this is my hobby." He says, "Well, trust me, get another one." And I think they were trying to prepare me, especially Mike, that I might enjoy the moment of being on the air, but there's the business side of the business that you're not aware of, and as a young person walking into something might not see it. And as far as a matter of livelihood, you don't necessarily question, hey, can I make a career out of this the rest of my life? So, Mike, I would say, was instrumental in that way. And, my parents, I would say, would, be the preeminent force of solidifying my dreams and saying that, yes, you can go after this. You can do anything you want. And my mom and dad were always there for me in that regard. And, to have parents that believed in me, while I also had a severely handicapped brother, Sean, who was born healthy but turned sick at 5.5 because, was it 3.5 weeks? Okay. My executive producer, my mom's in the background, 3.5 weeks old. But when I said 5.5, I was actually that age when Sean was born. So sorry, I mixed that up, Mom. But and Sean, he had spinal meningitis, and which caused him to have severe brain damage, and he was totally bedridden, so he couldn't do anything for himself. But he had a beautiful smile. He was legally blind, but he could see shadows some days better than others, and he was laser quick at recognizing who you were and when I came home, and recognizing all of our voices. So, Mike, I guess the other very important thing is that while Sean was being cared for, I was in my bedroom, which I kind of turned into a makeshift radio station because I would get a piece of equipment every Christmas to build upon, having a radio station and the ability to go from one record to the next, just like the radio station. So I had that going on, too. So I explored my career ambitions, as I was growing up, especially in my teen years, and just practiced it. And even if I wasn't DJing, I was practicing reading news, and some of the best advice I ever got from my parents was, when I read news and they were like, well, your voice hasn't changed yet, but use your own voice. Don't try to deepen it. Be you, And so they knew inherently, I guess, some of the things that I would be told later on in my career pursuits or critiques of my work, so.
Well, that advice is amazing because you hear it a lot from program directors, especially like with sports talk hosts. It's, hey, don't try to make your voice somebody else's. You're you. Carve your own path. Carve your own style. I think that's great advice, and just the throwback stories are amazing. I knew this was going to be amazing. That's why I wanted to bring you on, because I also surfed through your Twitter timeline and found you and Dan Horde on a picture back in the early '90s. So all these names and memories and moments and photos, and and just old school. That's what we call it. Us radio guys now who are not spring chickens anymore. We call it old school radio because it really then was old school. I mean, a lot of young people think that we were born before the Civil War, but it wasn't that it wasn't that long ago, but yet it was that long ago. You kind of go through that the mix of it. It's just been incredible. My last one for you is this: when you get done delivering the news, when you get done anchoring, when you get done reporting, what do you hope the listener says about you?
Well, I hope that they know that I take, both my delivery on the air and the content that I write and produce very seriously, because I think they have come to expect a very high level, product from WAER as listeners, and I hope that they know that I do take a lot of time to produce. Actually, several hours in a day. It's not uncommon that I'm leaving work, mid-afternoon, sometimes even later, depending on the day, just because I want to see something through. Like I want to put, John's mark on it, and when I'm able to do that, I just feel like, okay, I've accomplished something. And, as far as a radio listener, when I'm live, I just kind of use those fundamentals in my mind of, what I expect to anticipate when I'm listening to the radio and what I would like. And, beyond the news and information, as far as the personality side, I hope that they know whether I'm Captain John Smith spinning the hits, or if I'm just John Smith without the moniker, that, I know you're there. I see you, and I enjoy your presence, and thanks for taking time out of your busy day to think enough to not only, listen to the station, beyond listening to the station that you love to listen to, hopefully, if you enjoy listening to me, during a time slot that they might have listened to for years, even before my arrival, now approaching almost 15 years, and they, make it a daily habit or weekly habit. For that, I could feel like, I've accomplished something that I've been able to, continue on. And also, here's another validation, too, that is nice, Mike, is when I can go places and people recognize my voice in a conversation, but might not even know my name, and say, wait a minute, are you?
Yeah.
I recognize your voice,
Yep.
Those moments are really, really cool, and they happen here and there. And that tells me that, well, you know what, all those years ago when I was a kid, trying to perfect my voice and my delivery, that, if I can say something to the young, up-and-coming, budding talent, be who you are now. Use your voice now to the best of its ability, and you can support it in certain ways. And it can be a stable, consistent sound, right? But, if you dream of having a big voice someday, and it's not big enough yet for you, hang in there. It's on the way. Just work hard. But you got to let life take its course. Because I grew very impatient as a kid sometimes, wanting my voice to deepen. And I had a fairly deep voice as a young, teen. But it wasn't until years later that the voice that I dreamt of having, I believe I recognize it now that I have it, and I feel so blessed, Mike, that I've been able to guide others in their pursuits in that regard, whether it's their voice or their other broadcast talents.
Well, this was incredible. The voice, iconic, the personality, legendary. For so many listeners out there, you know him, John Smith, at JSmithWAER on Twitter. Go give him a follow. The terrific local morning host, NPR's Morning Edition, anchor, reporter. Been doing it for decades now. And John, more importantly, I'm really, really honored to call you a friend. So thank you for doing this. The stories were incredible. The advice for youngsters, incredible. And hey, in due time, in the coming weeks, let's meet up on the hill and we'll grab some slices and shoot the bull, man.
Well, that sounds excellent, Mike. I greatly appreciate you reaching out. Let's do that. And if I could say one more thing, and that would be to all of the WAER alum, Newhouse alum, I've had the pleasure of working with through the years, and the alum that I've just met over the years that I didn't work with while they were students. It's an honor to know all of you.
The ML Sports Platter is brought to you by Bryant and Stratton College, Stanley Law Offices, and Welch & Company Jewelers. Go ahead and log on to welchjewelers.com for the best jewelry around. The official jewelry store of the ML Sports Platter is Welch & Company Jewelers. Tip of the cap, thank you as well to the Vince Aguirre Consulting Group and Brewerton Ace Hardware. Man, they've got it all at Brewerton Ace Hardware. I'm telling you, they've got local distributors, pickles and barbecue sauce. They have grills. They've got your pot soil. They've got all kinds of different amenities and equipment for you if you're a fisherman. Go to Brewerton Ace Hardware. They've got every single exterior and interior paint as well. Brewerton Ace Hardware, Route 11 in Brewerton, just off the Bartell Road exit if you're in and around Central New York, in front of the Brewerton Bridge. Brewerton Ace Hardware is the official hardware store of the ML Sports Platter. Big time thanks to John Smith. I'm Mike Lindsley, ML Sports Platter here. Hit me on Twitter at Mike L Sports. And as I always tell you, enjoy the games.